Hey, you are watching Simply SCAdian, no title required. This is Zoph, joined with with my wonderful co-host, Lucas. And I'm making sure everything is working right here. And so, Lucas, take it away while I make sure we're working good.
Yeah, welcome to Simply SCAdian, no title required. Once again, just to remind you of the mission of the Zoomcast, we're here to present the people of the common throng of the SCA. We have a lot of great people in the upper echelon who have worked very hard to gain their titles, but they're not the only voice. They're great voices, and we love them, but there are lots and lots of people day to day that have a wealth of knowledge in all types of walks in the SCA. And we would like to highlight, to showcase, to bring those people to the fore and let you know who they are. So, as always, I will invite you to go to our Facebook page, Simply SCAdian, no title required. Find the form there and nominate somebody. Who would know better than you who those people are? Somebody that goes to your, as we were talking earlier, your sewing circle, and they do great work. Well, we want to talk to them about the great work you're doing. Who is somebody who is, a brand new fighter and really working hard and moving forward? We want to talk to that person. It does not matter what they do, as long as they're doing something. And we really like to talk to those folks. Tonight, we have a very special guest, somebody that Zoph and I have worked with before in the Gnome World Players, but I'm going to let Zoph do the bio.
Oh, yay. I never get to do the bio. So we're joined tonight by Jolicia at Northclyffe. She's been involved in the SCA and the Barony of the Cleflands, which is Cleveland, Ohio, since 2002. She has held a number of baronial and kingdom positions, including baronial MOAS and chatelaine. MOAS is Minister of Arts and Sciences, sorry, and Deputy Kingdom Chatelaine. She is an instrumental musician. I'm sorry, wait, let me rephrase that. She is an awesome kick butt instrumental musician, playing the recorder, psaltery, and piano, and can often be heard playing prior to court. She also enjoys archery, running events, and sewing garb for herself, husband, and friends. In period, Jolicia came to Queen Elizabeth's court with her father, a Moorish trumpet player. After her father's death, Jolicia remained at court teaching music to the children of minor nobles and anonymously composing church music. Welcome, Jolicia.
Hey, welcome. Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
We're thrilled to have you on. We knew you were on our short list of people we
Yeah,
wanted to invite to be on the show, so
Uh,
we're so glad that you could do this with
I'm
us.
honored. I'm honored.
So let's start out with the usual question. How did you find the SCA?
Okay, well, this is a little bit of a non-PC answer because I came through science fiction and Renaissance fairs. So I've been in science fiction really all my life, going to conventions, clubs, all that kind of stuff. And of course, as you know, there's a big overlap between the SCA people and the science fiction people. So I knew a lot of SCA people. I just had never come to a meeting or anything. And then around, I don't know, the late 1990s, I got free tickets to the Ohio Renaissance Fair and went down and was dazzled. And I was especially dazzled by all the clothes, all the clothing in the booths. But it's super expensive. And so my husband was kind of dragging me away, from the booths and saying, well, our one friend who was in the SCA, well, she can probably make that for you. But, she's the sort of person where she's sewing for our whole friend circle, and I was like, oh, she's always so booked up. And then I said those faithful words, I could probably make that myself. How difficult can it be? The words that launched 1,000 projects. So, then as things went on, we were talking about the Ren fairs and everything, and our SCA friends said, well, if you like the Ren fairs, why don't you try this? And so I started going to Clefland's meetings and some events and stuff like that, and, just got sucked in. So that's
Um,
basically it.
so have you always been a musician, or was that new from joining the SCA?
No, I did flute as a kid, in elementary, junior high, high school, played flute and piccolo in the marching band, which I really loved. And I always really loved making music. I wasn't that good though. I went to college and it was basically, that what is it called? little frog in the big pond, and you think you're a big deal, and then you get to the bigger pond and you're not a big deal. So I had really kind of dropped it, although I do still have my flute, but I hadn't played in years. And I got into the SCA, and I was kind of like, well, where's the music? Where are the musicians? And I was thinking about recorder, and then, okay, you can tell how old this story is. I went to a Borders bookstore, okay, on New Year's Eve day. Like, we were running errands that day. And they used to have these little kits, like learn to do whatever, in a kit. And there was a learn to play the recorder kit. And I said, all right, a sign from above. Yeah, so I bought it. And by midnight that night, I could play like Mary Had a Little Lamb or something. I was just fooling around. And I was really enamored with it, and I was playing and all this stuff. And so I went online, and I found that Cleveland had a recorder group. And so I went. They met like on the weekends, and it was all these older people, because a lot of people in Europe, people who have come from Europe or immigrants or whatever, they have a strong recorder musical background. And a lot of them, there used to be a early music program at CSU, and a lot of them had come from that. So I'm sitting there with my little plastic recorder, and I'm playing with them. And I don't have a great ear, but even I can tell that I am really, really off, like the pitch that's coming out of my recorder, to the point where I just started like just faking it because I was so off. And so at the end of it, I went up to this woman who, introduced herself. I said, hey, my recorder sounds really awful. What's wrong? And she looked at it. She goes, that's a toy. That's a toy. You need to get a real recorder. I'm like, oh, okay. So I ordered a real recorder, and there really is a difference. I mean, like the ones you see like in the dollar store and stuff like that, they really are really terrible. But I got a real recorder, still plastic, but real, from Amazon, and started playing it. And then I started taking it to SCA events. And I remember this one time, it was like a Brindoken event in Akron. And I remember me and this other woman, we both played recorder, but we really didn't know what we were doing. And we were like up in this balcony, and we were playing and trying to, go through our songs. And this other woman was listening. And I guess it was a song that was fairly well known. She goes, that's wrong. You're playing it wrong. And we're like, oh, I mean, like we were so happy to get, no, she was totally nice about it. And we were
Okay.
thrilled because we're like, do you know this song? Can you help us? But then a friend in another friend in Cleflands, I'm like, well, I'm always about joining people and organizing and all that kind of stuff. And she's like, well, why don't you've got to be other people who play recorder. Everyone's got a recorder gathering dust under their bed. So I found a few other people, and it was just when, I'm losing all my names. Fooey. Zoph, help me out here. He's Viking. He has a huge, they've been king and queen twice.
Ike Brander?
Thank you. Ike, Brandon, Runa, their first coronation. Thank you. Sorry, Ike, Brandon, Runa. Their first coronation, we got our group together. I think there were like 4 of us to play recorder. And that I just remember that morning we were so nervous, so terrified. But we did it, we played as they came down the aisle for their coronation. It was just wonderful. Another early time was, I'm going to stop trying to think of names, but they were Baron and Baroness of the Cleflands, and they were being put in the office. And I remember playing for them at Nome, and that was a very early thing too. So it just kind of snowballed, so I kind of founded this group. And sometimes we're a group, sometimes it's just me, sometimes, people leave, people come back, but, we've really tried to keep it going. And I just love it. I mean, it's the thing I really love most about the SCA, because I really couldn't probably do music if it wasn't for the SCA. It'd be very, very difficult. There's not a whole lot of outlets for adults to play, at a not professional level, just like I want to have fun level. And it's always a tremendous experience to play at events. And I always have an extra recorder with me. And if people come up and say, I used to play recorder, I'm like, here, And anyway, I'm kind of babbling. But yeah, that's what I do.
That's awesome.
What is the other instrument you play?
Well, I have a psaltery. I'm kind of stretching, I guess, to say. Do you know what psaltery is? It looks.
I do not. That's why I asked. Yeah.
Okay. It looks like a hammered dulcimer.
Okay.
I believe a hammered dulcimer is not period. I could be wrong. I believe the hammered dulcimer is not period. This one is period. It's very early period, but it looks like that, the wood board and then the strings,
Mhm.
but you pluck it. It's plucked. It's not hammered.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
It's very soft. That's why it's not a great instrument for bardic or whatever. It's very, very soft. The one I have is very small. It only gets one accidental. It only plays an F sharp, which really limits what you can do. But I got it several years ago because I'm one of those weird people. I enjoy entering ANS. I know there's a lot of controversy about ANS and bardic and people don't like it, whatever. I enjoy it. I enjoy the challenge. So one year I wanted to do what would have been a triple, which is when you do three projects in the same division, which is going to be bardic, obviously. So I played my recorders and I did psaltery and I did a cutting from Merchant of Venice. So the way the division, the way the categories were, I needed like a stringed instrument. I needed something else. So I was able to get this psaltery. So it's a nice little instrument. I really should pay more attention to it and learn it better. Yeah. And then a couple years ago, about 4 years ago, I started taking piano. So I really, really suck at it still, but I'm getting there.
That's so awesome. Now, one of the things, I'm sort of shifting focus here, but Lucas and I both know you because of your service,
Mm,
right? We know you through the known role players, but I also know that you have held numerous offices,
mhm.
you have run many events.
Yes.
What is it that brings you to that place where you love doing that? What is the lure for you?
Well, I've always loved running events. I really have, ever since I was a kid. I mean, I remember like a backyard carnival I made my friends put on. I mean, I've always just wanted to be the person in charge. With science fiction, I put on a convention before I'd ever been to one at Ohio State. So I just love organizing things. I love it that this event is like this idea in your brain and I can picture it. I mean, I can just like see it and I know what I want it to be. And then, there's this time where it's just emails and talking to people and things going wrong and changing your mind and all those kinds of crazy things that happen, just lists and stuff like that. But then there's that day, the day of the event, and the doors open, which I'm always terrified about. That's my big nightmare, is that the doors will not be open, but the doors get open and people start coming and things start happening and it's like, oh my god, it's the event. It really is the event. And then you see people being happy and having fun and maybe you have to dry some tears or give a hug or whatever happens. But it's just, I don't know, to me it's just like this big it's really this act of creativity because it goes from nothing to something and then it all goes away again, and then you're taking all the signs down and you're cleaning up and it just all kind of disappears and goes away until next year. So I don't know, I just really love it. And the thing I love about the SCA is that it offers those leadership opportunities to people. I mean, there's so many leadership opportunities, so many opportunities to do things and get in there and be in charge, even if it's just something small. That's what I just really enjoy.
That's
What
awesome.
what event, like, is there one that sticks out? You're like, that was like, it was either really hard and really rewarding, or like just effortless and just fun, or
Well, they're never effortless, I mean, and I'm the sort of person where I sweat the details. Some people don't, they're just like, oh, whatever, or they just hope everything will go right or whatever. I really sweat the details. I do, and I hope it shows. I hope so. Another thing is that I really try to do those little extra things, like make the tokens fit the theme. I always do decorations. I bring tablecloths. I just try to do those little extra things because to me that just makes it show that you are saying thank you to the people who showed up. Like I cared enough to get these tablecloths on. I cared enough to make a really nice token for you. It's like having a party. If you go to your friend's apartment and they didn't clean, and it's just like, oh, here, sit anywhere. But if you go and they made an effort, you're like, oh, well, this is a great time. And also, I hope it reflects well on our barony. I mean, that's the thing, not me, but on our barony. But I'm sorry, I got off. What was your about the events that stand out?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the very first one, because Cleveland's is a big place, and it's sometimes hard to kind of find your place and find your way. And Fitz, who we all know very well from our barony, he had run a lot of events, and he was having a regular event, and he needed someone to do decorations, and I knew nothing about what was a regular event. What did you do with decorations? But I think he asked me, which I'll always give him credit for. He was so generous, to give me that chance. And so that one really stands out. I remember rating and I really didn't have any clue. And it was like we had like this horrible cafeteria, with the concrete stands, the concrete pillars and these awful tables. And it's like, what do you do? And I knew nothing about what to do, and like people are coming up to me like, well, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. What do you think I should do? But it all worked out, it all worked out. The coronations are always very special. Those are very special. Just to see those go off. I also did with Master Lou, who's now my pelican. I'm now belted to him. We did a joint rum. We did a joint Ethelmark mid-realm rum, which I don't think had ever been tried before or since. But he got in his head that he wanted one, and he kept like putting out the word. This was when I was baronial MOAS, and he kept wanting someone to step forward to do this. So I kept thinking, I'm like, well, we're probably the only people who can do this. Like we're centrally located between the two kingdoms. We're the only barony that has the wherewithal. We're very lucky, have a healthy bank account and all that. I'm like, well, I kind of think I have to do it, So that was wild. That was a very, very big event. It's the kind of thing too where the rum people are doing all the classes and everything, and you're just kind of having the place for them just to kind of plop in, And I think that's where Master Lou decided I was a real crazy person, because we had not met. We had just like talked on the phone or emailed or whatever. In fact, now that I tell this story, I'm not even sure I knew it was him. Now that I think about it, I guess I'd seen a picture. But anyway, it's that morning, and this site has like we were at a high school campus, so a lot of different buildings. I was running between the buildings, and so I'm outside and I by this driveway, and he drives up, and somehow I know it's him. And I just lost. I go, it's you. You really do exist. You're a real person. We're having the event. And so, what can I say? I guess I endeared myself to him for some reason.
Oh, you're very endearable.
Yeah.
I do want to explain for those listening who are not from the Mid-Realm. Rum is Royal University of the Mid-Realm, and regular event is the annual, post-pandemic, pre-pandemic, event that is held in Cleveland. That's the end of January every year. It's called regular event in the Cleflands.
Yeah. It's our big indoor event, and it usually gets about 200, 300 people.
Sometimes more, depending on if we get the king and queen. It's a big
event because we usually have maybe both sets of royalty, and we usually have a peer meeting, which of course you never find out if it's happening until a few weeks before the event.
Right. And then you got to find space for it.
Yes.
I could talk all day, so I'm trying to pause and let you jump in, Lucas.
Oh, I'm having fun listening. See, again, I represent in the show the novice. Like, I'm so new that, like, a lot of times, like, thank you for explaining, what some of the things are. The rum I knew. That's a good one. That one I could get, but a regular event, I was like, what's the difference?
Yeah, that's something that only if you're in this area,
in the Mid-Realm, you would know it. Yeah.
Then again, last week we had to explain what. Or the last show we explained to you what Quest was.
Yes, that's right.
It's an event out here. I don't know if this is hot button, but you said it, and I feel like I maybe a little bit of clarity. You talked about a controversy.
No, what controversy?
Oh,
Oh, in
you,
the A&S, about
in the
A&S.
ANS, you
Oh,
said,
oh, oh, oh.
you know what I mean? I just, you want to talk about that for a little bit? Or you want,
Well, I don't want to get in the weeds. I don't want to insult anybody. I'm sure whatever I say, 10 people will say I'm wrong or whatever.
okay.
And maybe it's over with. I don't know. I have been aware, and again, maybe this is in the past, who knows, that okay, first of all, we all know what ANS is, and you know that there are different categories and different divisions, and there is a division called Bardic, okay, which is, instrumental, singing, theater, it's all those kinds of
Right,
things.
it's the performing arts
The performing arts,
division. There's
right, right,
5 divisions, one of which is performing arts, and then you have
right,
like cooking or textiles or
right.
martial or different areas. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. And I guess the ANS fair in general in the past has been controversial because I think in the distant past, and of course people keep, bring, how those stories live on, there was very, very tough judging, and there's lots of stories, of unfair judging or people being mean. The thing about ANS you have to that makes it different is that you have to have documentation. You have to prove that what you did existed in period and that you did it as close as they did it in period. And that's what trips up a lot of people. A lot of people make beautiful, beautiful things, but they can't really document it or they don't document it. And so there's all these stories of lady so and so at my Barony makes beautiful whoosie what's it, and we all said you should put your whoosie what's it in the ANS, and so she did. And the mean judge said you didn't document it, and your stitches aren't right, and your whoosie what's it isn't right. And then Mrs. Lady whoever flees in tears and goes, I'm never entering the ANS again. Down with ANS. So, I think in the past, maybe some of those stories were true. ANS has changed a lot. It used to be that you just put your whoosie what's it on the table and you went away. And then you came back and there were all these comments and you're like, well, what is this? There were just a lot of hard feelings. Now, I think 5 or 6 years ago, they went to face judging, which means you stand there with your whoosie what's it and all 3 judges are there. You're all there together and you say, this is my whoosie what's it, and this is what I did, and this is why I did it, and blah, 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 blah. And they say, it's lovely, but, or, they make their comments, you did a great job, but you didn't use the right kind of thread. Or, you did a great job, but these colors aren't what they would have been in period. Or, your documentation isn't quite there. You're not really, showing that this is how they did it, whatever. So then when you get the written comments, because you also get written comments, okay, it's not a surprise anymore because hopefully what they said to you in your face is reflected in what's written. So it's not like this slap upside the head. Oh my God, you've heard it already, But I mean, it is a contest. It's judging, I think they've tightened up the rubric to what exactly they're looking for a little tighter. So really, and this is all posted on the ANS, there's no mystery to it. If you read down it, you can tell what the judges are looking for, how many points you're going to get for each thing. There is a little wiggle room. There are some categories where it's the judges' perception or their opinion, but mostly it's there. The other thing that really trips people up, okay, is they make the whoosie what's it and then they do the research. Okay, they try to retcon it, and we've all done this. I did it my first time out. You think, oh, this is what I want to do, and then you go down that road. You start making your whoosie what's it, and then you start doing the research. Like, oh, they didn't make the whoosie what's it like this, like I'm doing it, and so that gets people into a lot of trouble too,
Yeah.
But the problem with Bardic that I've heard is, first of all, people don't feel like it's fair to judge a performance. A lot of people are uncomfortable with that whole thing. They're uncomfortable that there's not an audience, because I guess you could ask your friends to come, but usually there's not an audience. Usually it's just you and the judges. So a lot of people feel that's unfair. Then you've got the whole tension between period and not period. And a lot of people have problems documenting what they do. There's a lot of hand wringing of, where am I going to find period music? I can't find period. Oh, yeah, you can, but a lot of complaints about that. Then there's the thing of is your instrument period? Okay. Um, Recorders are pretty lucky. I could get I could get a wooden recorder for very cheap. It wouldn't play like anything, but it would be wooden. Should you get marked down because your instrument is plastic or somehow not, period? There's a lot of controversy over that. I can't afford a a whatever crumb horn or whatever, or a wooden recorder or a wooden whatever. Should I be marked down for that? Should I be marked down because my music stand is metal and not wood? But these are things. My personal feeling, and like I said, I enjoy A&S. I enjoy competing against myself. I enjoy meeting other people who are into what I do. My feeling is that first of all, I know I'm going to be judged. Okay. I'm not, I have no problem with that. Okay. I tried out in band, I was in competitive speech. My mom was tough on me. I'd have to stand up in front of her and give my speech every night. I don't have a problem with that. I feel like that's how you grow. I don't need somebody to tell me, oh, that was beautiful. Okay, I'm glad you liked it, but tell me how I can get better. Tell me what I did wrong. Tell me what I need to work on. That's what I'm looking for. My feeling with A&S, with music, instrumental, is that it's my job to make my performance as close to period as possible. I should research how it was done, okay, in relationship to my instrument. For instance, recorders, as far as I know, were not used for church music. Okay, they just weren't. Again, as far as I know, I'm sure someone can contradict me, but that's what my research shows. Therefore, I should not be doing church music. Okay. Also, church music is really so polyphonic. It's not going to sound like anything on a recorder because you need all those different parts blending, and so much of it was vocal. I've got to find something in period that would have been played on a recorder. And that means chansons, or songs that were sung among people just sitting around trying to entertain each other, that kind of thing, that category, non-religious songs. So that's what I have to look for. And I have to look for something that existed after the recorder, because the recorder starts around 1300, 1400. So I've got to be late period. And that's where I got in trouble with my first A&S. I had to retcon it. What did I do? I did songs. I did cantigas. De Santa Maria, which are very, very early, like from 1100s, they're very early. And then I found out the recorder was like a couple hundred years later. I'm like, oh crap, And so I had to like fudge it in my docs and say, oh, well, these songs, they would have existed, for centuries, which they would have, but come on. I'm sure anyone could tell what I was doing. I was retconning, So now what I do is I look for songs from, Henry VIII or Elizabeth or something late period where the recorder was definitely there. These are songs that would have been played on the recorder. This is how they would have been played. I try to set up a little, kind of make it look like a salon, where I have a little rug and I have a little table and I borrow someone's chair. I don't have one of those nice wooden chairs like you see at Penzic, so I borrow one from somebody. And I just try to make it sound like, we're in my solar, we're in my private chamber and we're entertaining each other, and I bring out my recorder and here I'm going to play this for you. So that's what I do. That's what I try. But like I said, I think there has been some controversy there. I know it used to be when it came up on Facebook, you'd see all kinds of people arguing and say, I'll never do it, and yada yada, and like, well, okay, Anyway, does that answer your question?
Yeah. No, certainly. I mean, we got involved, or she's that way. We got involved in one the other, because I could see we were talking about is theater bardic or is bardic theater, and there was a whole
Oh
Facebook
yeah.
like
Yeah, yeah.
about that and whatnot. So I understand. And again, controversy might have been the wrong word, but there's debate certainly over
Yeah,
what
there's debate. Yeah,
there's debate,
yeah.
you
Well,
know.
I mean, what's the saying? Everybody has two things, an opinion and something else, and we'll just, everybody's entitled to have one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, yeah.
A&S entering arts and science competitions is not for everybody. I
No,
think
it
that's
isn't.
the important thing is that if you're going in there because you want people to tell you you're pretty, then you're entering for the wrong reason.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
Um,
going there then.
no, you shouldn't. No. And then, but if you are entering there because you understand that you need to grow and work on your art, and then you're going to get potentially, hopefully, people who know your art,
yeah,
and then you can have a really great discussion about what you did great, and a judge cannot go in there with their own pride. I mean, that's where I think the biggest problem is they feel like their pride's getting hurt or they know more
yeah,
instead of understanding that, you can learn as much from the person you're judging as they can learn from you. It's a
yeah, yeah,
conversation.
yeah,
It's not as long as you go into it that, but there's other things. There's craftsperson fairs out here in the mid realm.
yeah,
So you can just say, here's my whoosie what's it. Look at
yeah,
this awesome whoosie what's it I made.
yeah.
Tell me how pretty I am. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's yeah. There are lots of things. Yeah, and I should say I use as MOAS. I did run ANS, so I did hear all that. But about judging, that's another complaint you hear a lot, that the judges didn't know anything. They pulled someone who said they didn't know anything about my category. Well, we're sorry. I mean, now that everyone has to register ahead of time, I think they're trying to alleviate that and try to plug those holes. But you know what? We're all volunteers here. We can't. I wish we could have someone who was like, an expert in what you do for every single thing, but sometimes we can't.
Right. And you're supposed to write your documentation so that we could just literally go grab some person off the street and give them your documentation and they could understand what happened.
Yes, yes. And what
And
I do
that's
is
where
if there's,
people fail. But you're a
yeah, if there's
reporter
something,
in the real world, so you know how to write in the modern world. So you know how
well,
to write for those kind of
well,
things.
it took me a while to learn how to do docs, especially for music. I mean, I've sort of come up with a form now so I can do it pretty easily. But things that I think are important, I'll put in bold. I have lots of sticky notes so people can find things quickly, and I'll put things in bold and have a summary and make it easy for people. But you hear that a complaint too. That was in my doc and they overlooked it, and but I think the face to face alleviates a lot of that, where you can
I
say,
think it's really
there's
helped.
like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, I don't see this. You can say it's right there on page 47 or, whatever.
Right.
Well, yeah, I
And
mean,
there's,
it's a lot like using Facebook. It's very easy to facelessly say a thing,
Yeah.
but when you're
Yeah.
face to face with somebody, most people aren't that judgmental or cruel face to face.
I think all the judges these days, I think they're all trying to not be that judge
Yeah.
anymore, and I don't know. I think I ran 2 or 3 fairs, and I think most people came away happy. Most people were satisfied with the way they were judged. So
Mhm.
yeah.
I mean, and I admit there was one time I made someone cry, another time that I was said something really not nice, and I felt horrible about it. That wasn't my intention. But that's when you take a New Yorker and throw them in the mid realm.
Well, it is a competition.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you kind of touch on something that for me we've talked about on the show a bunch of times, is that like that mentality of, okay, I'm at this this competition and I'm going to tell this person that the stitching is wrong or that the fabric that they used is incorrect or something like that, but then taking that and then while you're at an event and somebody's wearing something that they think is nice, don't offer that same opinion to the people that are just trying to play the character, to be in the SCA as at their level at what they can. Yeah, good.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say, and then the other thing that's kind of along with that, and this is something near and dear to my heart, is that, and one of the reasons that we had the show is that a lot of times this happens at Penzing, and you don't recognize that this person might have a lot of real world experience in the thing that you're doing, and you're critiquing them on the level that you know what I mean, like in you're talking about big fish and ponds and
Yeah,
whatnot,
yeah,
and it's sometimes that's off-putting to a newbie as well. As I'm here trying to just have fun and do the best I can, and
yeah,
So
yeah.
wait, so
You,
here's
you,
a funny story. Wait, we gotta have to share this. So when I
all right.
started the Known World Players, before I was really known, it was maybe like our fourth year. Understand I started the KWP in the year 2000. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this woman was like, "Oh, you're the KWP," and she said it really like ver, 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 and she had laurel leaves on her head, and I said, "Yeah, come play with us sometime." And she goes, "Oh, no, I don't do community amateur theater." And I was like, excuse me, B, boop. I got paid to act. I was a paid actor. How dare you? And it was like just one of those things where somebody's pride got in the way, right?
Well,
Okay.
why would she say that? You know, I
Uh,
mean, what is wrong with community theater, people doing something they love? Yeah,
Right.
that's really awful. I'm sorry. And why would she say that to you? She didn't know anything about
She
you.
knew
How easy.
exactly.
That's one of those things. I have this phrase, save it for the car ride home. You know, all those little snarky
Snarky.
things that
Yeah.
go through your mind at an event or anywhere. Save it for the car ride home, or tell your cat when you get home.
Preach.
Don't say it then. Just, save it for the car ride home when you're not in public. Oh, well, what I was going to say though is you guys said you're going to ask me later what the SAA can grow. And one of the things, Lucas, you just touched on, we have got to stop being the guard police. We have got to stop coming down on people who are well-meaning and, you know, giving them little lessons, in the middle of Penzic or at an event or something. Why? Why would you do that? Someone made an effort. They're here, they're having fun. Why are you going to point out that, maybe pink polyester isn't completely period? Don't do that. I've heard that. Actually, I don't think it was ever done to me. Some of my garb deserved it, believe me, at the beginning, but I don't think so. But early on, I made this veil, and I think the material was kind of okay. I mean, it was like, oh, I want a pretty veil. I'm going to Joann's. I mean, that's the stage I was in. And then I took the stuff that you get at Joann's, and it's polyester. It's like a rope type thing. I don't know. You've seen it. And it came in different colors, and it was cheap. And so I got like two different colors, and I braided it together. I made this trim, and I put the braid around the edge of the veil. And I wore it for a long time, and then I decided I didn't really like veils, and I put it away. Well, my girlfriend was getting into the SCA, and I gave her this veil. I'm like, here, have a veil. Do you know that someone called her out on the veil? That it wasn't period and the trim wasn't right. And I felt horrible because I had given her this veil. And it's like, why would you do that? And then they wonder why people don't want to come back.
Right.
My feeling, I mean, I was chatelaine, and so, I've had friends join and everything. And, you see people going down the wrong path or whatever, and you bite your tongue, and I figure if they really stay in it and they really want to know, they will find out. Or if they ask me, is this period? I will say something like, yeah, it is, or no, and this is why. Or they'll say, can I do this? And I'll like, it's a free country. You can do anything you want, but, it's not quite as period as this. Or, this is why this isn't period. And then I just kind of let them decide, because not everyone wants to be spot on period. Not everyone really aspires to that. And you can see them slowly, because it is a process. I mean, when we come in, we have such a modern sensibility about colors and what goes together and what looks good. And these clothes, they are strange. They're not what we're used to. So you can and everyone thinks they want to look like a Disney princess. Oh, can I tell you a Disney princess story that's really funny?
Yeah.
Okay, I think you guys who know me, my husband Bob, wonderful guy. All right. Well, one time his sisters were visiting, and they're great people, but very very mundane and everything. And their idea of garb is the Disney princess with the big thing coming off. So I was sewing this party dress. It was part purple, part green. Okay. And I had a dress stand, and the dress was on the dress stand. And it was like I do a lot of my sewing in the dining room. So it was still in the dining. I was probably showing it off. Now that I think about it, I was probably like, here's my dress. And so they kept staring at it and staring at it, and then finally they go, why is it half one color and half the other color? And I said, oh, well, that's called party color. Blah, blah, blah. I give them this whole little lesson. And they're still just kind of looking at me like, she didn't buy enough fabric. And, she really screwed up and she's trying to, cover it up, because why else would you have a dress that's half one color and half the other?
Nice. So I wanted to ask you about, well, first of all, I have now written down, save it for the car ride home. That's going
Yeah,
to be
thank
our
you. Yeah.
new. So on my car ride home, though, what I always do is we do what's your favorite thing about today?
Yeah, we do that too. Yeah. Well, I
That's
like to ask
and then
people
I
about
also
food.
like the other stuff to kvetch about too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's always something, there's always something, but
My,
Um,
my friends have a rule. You can complain, and then they'll go, "Now, two things nice."
I like
yeah,
that.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
all
and
yeah.
then cut it off. Yeah, yeah.
So, we sort of touched on the known role players,
Mm,
because that's how Lucas and I both know you. Well, I mean, I knew you outside of the known role players. I didn't even know you were part of the KWP till I came back after I took a few years off.
yeah.
What is it? How did you hear about the known role? So, for those who don't know, the known role players is a theater troupe that was founded in the year 2000 that performs at Pensick War every year. They rehearse a little bit before they hit Pensick. The first rehearsal is Saturday night or Sunday morning, and the show goes up Friday night. So it's this real intense schedule to get a show mounted, and whoever started it is really just really
like
cruel, horrible
sadistic.
person.
Sadistic is the word I think.
Sadistic. Yeah, what a horrible
A
human
sadistic
being.
genius, a genius. Yes.
So how did you find the known role players and what drew you to them?
Well, I'd done theater in high school. I mean, just on a very, very low level. I wasn't anything great. And I think I told you, Lucas, I was in competitive speech in high school too. So I'd been, performing or whatever. And a few years before that, I had joined a local community theater, which was great. And I was in the chorus of a couple musicals, and that was really great. And they were going to go to our first Pensick, and Bob was coming with me. And I don't know, I was just on the website and I saw something and I thought, well, we should do this because I didn't want Bob, he's kind of like SCA adjacent, he was still kind of finding his way. And I thought, well, he doesn't want to just like follow me around shopping all, the whole time, and he had done theater in college. He had done some theater. So anyway, I signed this up and we were doing the Scottish play that year. And we were background supernumeraries or whatever, but it was really fun. And I think, isn't that the one where there's like 7 ghosts or something? I think, is that the one?
All of Banquo's family, like
Yeah.
his descendants. Yes.
Yeah. Well, we were them. And the prop person that year made these wonderful masks. In fact, I still have them. They're in a basket in my house. They have lasted that long and they're wonderful. And so anyway, yeah, we had a great time. And I don't know. I just really loved it. I love theater. I wish I could do more of it in my real life, but the time it takes is just, not conducive, And I mean, what better way to start your day than to hear a bunch of Shakespeare? It's just so great. It is. And I don't know, every year I say, oh, I should drop out. I should do something else at Pensick, but I just keep getting sucked in. And it helps that I'm a morning person. I don't really mind those morning rehearsals,
Same.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
it is. It's a great way to start your day. And, I think, when I think about it, we really have a great group of people. I mean, there's nobody that I'm like, oh, or, avoid that person or whatever. It's always great. It's always a great experience. Even if you're just, I shouldn't say just a extra or whatever, everyone's important. But, You know, Lucas has been a main person, and you never like look down on the rest of us or anything, or you
Oh,
know, say, oh, you little people over there. And then I'm not even sure how I got involved with doing props, but I did, and I started helping Rosie, who was our longtime prop person, and that was really fun because I get to make stuff. And by the way, newsflash, it's a lot harder to make a fake apple than you think it is. I have a bunch of lumpy things on my dining room table that were going to be apples, and now they're not because I'm buying them off of Amazon because it's like did not work out. But my block of cheese looks great. I'm in charge of making the fake food. The cheese turned out really well. The loaf of bread, it'll do, but the apples is like no, didn't work out. But that's always fun. You know, I remember we were doing what was it that you directed, Zoph, the Greek one? The Greek one.
Oh, the Greek one, Miles Gloriosus.
No, the one that was um
Hector?
yes,
Hector?
Hector.
Oh,
Hector,
okay.
yeah. And you wanted me to make those helmets, and I was like, I don't know how to make a helmet. Like, okay, so what do you do when you don't know how to make something? You Google it, you know, and then there's all these YouTube videos of where sixth graders have had to make Greek helmets for their class, you know. But I had the thing that the kind of rooster coop poop thing that sticks up. I had to make it. I should tell everyone listening. I'm great with like glue and paper mache and all that, but I don't do woodworking or leather working. I don't have that skill. So anyway, my little rooster poop was like construction paper, and I mean, it looked okay, but you know, a few days out of the Pinzik, all the rooster poopings were going like this. So I was back there with thread, and I'm trying. I can't really explain, but I was trying to, you know, sew them together and make them come back up, you know. And my joke was that I was giving them Viagra, you know, to make them. I don't know. Can I say that? Is that okay to say on
That's
Facebook?
Yes,
it's
that's
perfectly
totally
fine.
okay.
All right.
You're
But
good.
they looked good. They looked good.
They did. They looked incredible.
Yeah.
And it's funny because one of the things that I was going to tell you before we went, one of the things that's hilarious is that I was in Henry V, and I had no idea that Lucas was in Henry V too. I,
That was my first KWP show.
I,
I did Henry V, and I was the Dauphin, and like 10 other things, like go stand in the background, now go do
Yeah.
this, now go do that, now go change and be the Dauphin. And we were talking about it. I was like, yeah, I remember you from that. You were like, I had no clue who you were. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
You know what's so amazing about KWP is, like you said, we have what, 5 rehearsals, I think. And you know, there's so many things like, well, in my community theater, we would put on like 10 productions because we were only charging like $2 each. So we had to like, you know, per person, because, you know, so we had to put on a whole ton of performances to make any money. And there's so many things where you're like, if we could just do this more, we would really get this down pat, you know, like the scene changes and where the props should be and all that stuff. But you just got that one night. You just got one night. That's it.
and it'll never be done again. Wow, that person who started that just,
Sadistic.
what were they thinking?
What were they thinking?
Well, but look how far it's come now, because I think in the beginning we didn't even have phone rehearsals or anything like that. It was very
No.
much, you know, just we're going to do it.
And now we have Zoom. I mean, it's going to change everything when
Yeah.
we finally get back to Penzig and we do, hopefully, Weird Sisters by Terry Pratchett is supposed to be the next show.
Yes.
You know, we can rehearse so much with Zoom. That'll be great. It'll be great.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
previously, for those of you who don't know, previously we rehearse on the phone. It was these conference calls, and
or not at all.
Or
I
not
did no phone rehearsals when the troops first
oh,
started.
wow.
We just hit Penzig, and we had no, like, barely internet. Like, seriously,
Yeah.
come with me back to 2000. I would show up at Penzig and pray that the actors all got the email, because sometimes they wouldn't even respond.
Yeah.
wow.
Oh, here's another funny story. I was trying out for Merchant of Venice because I just wanted to be on stage, and Lorcan was directing, and he looks at me and he goes, "Would you mind playing a man?" You know, he said something that the faithful question, "Can I ask you a question?" Which are always like, okay, you know, what's coming next? He goes, "Would you mind playing a man?" I'm like, "No, I guess not." So he cast me as Morocco, you know, the Moroccan prince.
Yeah.
And so I did a good job at memorizing it, but I guess my delivery was just, I guess it was really bad. I really sucked. It's like I was sent to remedial class or something, you know. I was trying to sound angry, and I don't do good sounding angry. I don't know. Anyway, but finally I got my groove. I figured out, you know, how I needed to sound more pompous, you know, to play him more pompous. But that was the year that all the lights went out.
That was
That's right.
that was the best thing that ever happened to that show. I'm telling you, I loved that show. And for me, I was freaking out because
I was too.
I took over for an actor who dropped out in April.
Yeah.
I got the call and I was like, because I hadn't auditioned, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess I could work it out, and you know, and I came in and I was like, it was so much fun to just switch that up and do it outside.
Well,
So I loved it.
I don't know. I was too terrified. I mean, you guys are professionals, you know, you guys had your act together, but I was like, if I get thrown, and when you look at what I basically had a monologue, and a lot of times in the scene, you know, you're with other people. So if you forget, the other person can go, weren't you going to lunch? Or, you know, they can help you out or just go on with their line. And, you know, but if you look at my scene, there's no help. You're it. You know, there's no one who can really help you. Either you get through it or you don't. And I was like, oh God.
You were wonderful. You did a wonderful job
Yeah.
because I
Well,
was
thanks.
there. I saw it. You were great.
Do you
Well,
remember
my
me in
heart
that
was
one?
with.
No, shut up. I don't know who you are.
Well, the other funny story is that Bob, my husband, when he comes to Pinzik, he brings literally everything but the kitchen sink. I mean, our tent is just stuffed. I'm always like, why did you bring all this stuff? But he always talks about, I think he had like extra lanterns, or he had the extra portable battery, something that we needed that night for the lights. He's like, well, see, I knew we'd need this. You know, this is why I brought all this, because he raced back to our tent and brought all this stuff
Yeah,
that we had
that
bought.
he saved the show. Yeah,
He
that
did. He
was a
did
great
help.
show.
He did help. I think it was his trouble lights or something. I don't know. Something
Well,
that I had yelled about. Like, why do we have this? We actually need it.
actually, what Soph doesn't know about that show, and I don't know that it ever came up. So Damiana, one of our previous guests,
Mm-hmm.
was a friend of mine from camp. My whole camp showed up to see the show, which is
Yeah.
my wife, and they're all theater people. And when the lights went out and they overheard people saying like, well, we're going to have to start moving, they were like, what do you need? And
Yeah.
they all started moving the chairs out
Aw.
themselves.
Right.
Because they were all theater people. So, and they're stagecraft and they're whatnot. So they literally just started doing all of the things they would do in their own theater, and just like kind of taking things out of people's hands and whatnot. It was like, you know, all hands on deck, like quite literally.
Yeah.
Now, you know, if you ever need anything, go to Raven Spittle, just so you know,
All
Jalicia.
right. All right. I'll keep that in mind. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many great, you know, great things. And I think KWP is like one of those little hidden gems at Pinzik. You know, it really is. I don't know how many people really know about us, because we're kind of on that last night, and a lot of people started pulling out of Pinzik the night before. My
Yeah.
camp is usually totally all gone by the play night. They pull out the
Yeah.
night before.
Right, and we can't push it back to Thursday nights because that would give us even less time to rehearse.
Yeah,
We
I
need
know.
that
No, we
Friday
did
night.
do one of them on Thursday. I
We've
forget
done
which one that was.
well. I know Every Man was on a Thursday, but
Yeah,
there was
but
another one that was on a Thursday too.
one of the ones I was in had to be on the Thursday for some reason. And
Wormwood's out there. Wormwood, what was that?
Yeah.
We'll wait.
Yeah, well, wait.
Have we ever done A Man for All Seasons? I saw that movie the other night. Okay, I figured we had.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Which reminded me, and we're almost out of time, but I know that you are not only incredibly talented in so many ways, but you're also a playwright, Jalicia.
Yes, yes, yes. My play is looking for a director. Hint, hint, hint. Yeah, a couple years ago, I wrote a play. It's about Jane, the 9 Days Queen. Any Tudor fans out there? Jane Grey, who reigned for all of 9 days and then got her head lopped off. And I was reading this biography of her because I love Tudor history. That's my interest. And I was just reading them like, this should be a play. This should be a play. I mean, it just, you know, the arc is there. It's all there for you. But then I put it away, you know, but then I had a class taught by Ursula, where she talked about what's in. She kind of broke down all the history plays, and she's like, "Well, you've got ghosts, and you've got this, and you've got that, and and by the third act you have to have a wedding, and by the fourth act you have to have this." And again, there was my whole outline. I'm like, okay, this is a sign. You have to write this play. So I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed that structure. It's like less scary than a novel or a short story, because you kind of, you got to hit these beats. You got to kind of put things where they are. And I just loved, and it's my time period, so I didn't really have to do that much research, because I know it. So yeah, I wrote it, and it got a not a screening,
Staged
a
reading.
staged reading, yes, at the last Pinsick, thank goodness, yes, before everything shut down. And it was so cool to see the actors doing it, and they really acted out a lot. They really got up and presented a lot of the scenes.
Really enjoyed it. So
Well,
send
thank
it my
you.
way and we'll talk. We'll
Oh,
talk. Your
good.
people talk to my people and we'll.
All right, all right. I'd appreciate that, because I know it needs work, but I need to know, to have someone kind of direct me as to what needs to be done.
Yeah, send it my way. All
All
right.
right.
So we are totally out of time.
I got to ask one more thing. I'm
Go
sorry. I know
for
you're
it.
out of
No,
time, but
what?
I got to ask one more thing. So again, this is not SCA related at all. You said you came here by way of sci-fi.
Yes.
What's your sci-fi fandom? Because Zoph is a devout Star Wars, and I ride the line between Star Wars and Star Trek. But
I'm with you. I fell in love with the original series like at age 15. So my heart's with Kirk, Spock, and McCoy forever. And now I've started, I just binged DS9. So now I love DS9. However, being in that theater in 1977, seeing that ship come overhead at the opening of Star Wars, oh my God, oh my God. But only the first trilogy of Star Wars.
Thank you.
Not any of the other stuff. We won't go there. That's for another podcast.
Yeah.
But not any of the other stuff. The true thing,
True first three. Well, I like Rogue One, but I like the first three in Rogue One, and that's about it.
All right. All right.
All right. Lucas, why don't you go out and go take us out by telling us who our next guest is going to be in 2 weeks.
Oh, I'm blanking on her SCA name. I'm so sorry.
Juliet?
Well, Juliet is her real name. But the current Baron and Baroness of Setmore Swamp have been dear friends, family friends, since 25, 30 years now of my life. And they suggested that we have on, again, we're trying to get perspective. Alidora. It is one of their daughters, who I've known her entire life, and she is a lifer in the SCA, as far as as I know. And again, we're trying to get perspective, different types of people and whatnot. So really, that younger generation, and see where her thought process is at. I'm really excited to talk to her. Again, because we family and friends lose touch. And I was there for a lot of her growing up, and then kind of missed this, section as we moved away from each other. So I can't wait to have her on the show next week.
Good, in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Thank you, Jolicia. It has been
Thank
really
you.
awesome
Thank
talking
you.
with
Thank
you.
you.
And we could have done this for another hour, and here we were all worried. Thank you so much for being with us, Jolicia, and we'll see everybody on April 29th.
Great. Thank you.
Simply SCAdian, no title required.